Disbelief in Dalton Thursday evening as Chicago's former mayor, who was hired to investigate Dalton Mayor Tiffany Henyard's administration, revealed the shocking spending of taxpayer dollars.
Drama in Dalton. Credit card transactions amounting to thousands of dollars without explanation and millions more owed to vendors.
A bombshell report highlights just how much financial trouble the village of Dalton is really.
They say the village is facing financial disaster and they blame the mayor for mismanagement. She says this is all just political.
Residents of Dalton and Thornton Township, who had long been aware of their community's financial struggles, were taken aback when former Chicago Mayor Lori Lightfoot revealed a fiscal crisis that was far worse than anyone had predicted. The area is currently facing millions of dollars in debt, a situation that has gotten worse over time. Frustrated residents have called for Tiffany Henyard, the mayor of Dalton and the supervisor of Thornton Township, to resign, but Henyard has not shown any regret or desire to confront the growing allegations of financial mismanagement, corruption, and favoritism that have dogged her tenure in power. Instead, her administration has become a hotbed of scandal due to allegations of embezzlement and misuse of public funds. Hen's apparent disregard for the concerns of her voters has only served to increase animosity and mistrust, and the disclosure of an FBI inquiry into her actions has overshadowed any beneficial contributions despite considerable protest. Marked the turning point, sending shockwaves through a community that had grown accustomed to political theater and broken promises. The evidence of Henyard's actions keeps mounting, painting a grim picture of governance where personal agendas have consistently taken precedence over the public good. Allegations of extravagant spending on taxpayer-funded luxury vacations, costly purchases, and wasteful projects have led many to believe that Henyard is determined to leave Dalton and Thornton Township financially depleted before her tenure. Closes of financial in addition to misusing money, poor management, and unethical behavior also reveal a larger lack of accountability and leadership. Locals wonder how one person could so blatantly undermine community finances and undermine public trust, making matters worse. According to Lifefield's analysis of Dalton's finances, the village's general fund had a startling $36.5 million shortfall. This revelation has come to represent the administration's. Reports of Henyard using public funds for personal indulgences like lavish travel and an $85,000 personal audit have stoked public outrage, solidifying her image as a leader disconnected from the struggles of her constituents. Failures encapsulating years of neglect and misappropriation have driven the community to the verge of collapse. Important services like insurance, transportation, and Thornton Township, which is also within Henyard's jurisdiction, have also been affected. The ongoing FBI investigation has become a symbol of hope for some residents who see it as a potential pathway to justice and the restoration of accountability. Many see it as a necessary intervention after years of stalled local efforts to curtail Henyard's unchecked authority. For seniors and food assistants, these hardships serve as a reminder of the human cost of leadership failures, as vulnerable populations bear the brunt of decisions made for personal gain. Those who criticize her have accused her of purposefully procrastinating while using public resources for her personal gain, which has further increased suspicions about her intentions. Residents view her lack of attendance at important township meetings, especially those aimed at resolving the insurance crisis, as a sign of her disdain for the welfare of the community. Prominent critics, including trustees like Chris Gonzalez, have warned of the dangerous implications of such neglect, highlighting the fact that problems like insurance and basic services are not just political, but have a significant impact on people's lives. The deteriorating situation has energized opposition and prompted calls for a total change of leadership in the hopes that Dalton and Thornton Township can recover from the ashes of poor management and return the community to a state of integrity and financial stability.
From multiple sources that federal agents are in fact interviewing witnesses as part of a possible investigation that may or may not result in charges.
The issues surrounding Tiffany Henyard intensified as she was the subject of multiple complaints, with some of the most alarming claims originating from company owners who said their enterprises were selectively singled out and closed for no other reason than declining to support political gatherings that Henyard is supporting in contrast to creating a strong local economy. The claims portrayed a worrisome picture of an administration that allegedly used power to further personal and political agendas. Business owners describe an environment of fear, and Henyard's administration's relationship with the business community has been strained as a result of retaliation, where failure to comply with the mayor's agenda could result in abrupt, unfair regulatory actions, such as arbitrary fines or outright closures. Public mistrust growing. Critics contend that this kind of behavior is an abuse of power that puts political advantage ahead of the financial health of the companies that support the town's prosperity. The impact of these activities went beyond the business community, as locals expressed indignation at her adversaries pointed to these episodes as more proof of the administration's persistent preference for self-interest over the welfare of the community, which fueled calls for accountability and openness and ultimately led to her removal from office. A sizable section of the public has become even more estranged from her as a result of the accusations, growing evidence of financial mismanagement, and other scandals, which has strengthened the perception that her leadership is unsustainable. Henyard has denied any misconduct and rejected the accusations as fact. Attacks. The situation has only gotten worse because she hasn't adequately addressed the worries of both citizens and business owners. Many are questioning whether Hand's administration can get past the accusations after this alleged abuse of power added even another level of complexity to the already complicated web of allegations. Increasing criticism, or whether these developments mark the start of the end of her political career.
Or retaliation. Both of the Dalton bars that were raided and shut down last night, we visited the day before as part of our ongoing investigation into allegations of political corruption in Dalton.
They just rushed in here, put police at the front of the door like they was doing a raid on a drug house.
A team of Dalton police officers raided and shut down Pablo's Bar and Cafe and Rinky's Bar and Cafe, both located uncivilly about a block apart.
Everything going peacefully. Nothing going on. It's like 10 police cars came in and they start pushing customers from here. And he said, if you don't leave...
As the situation grew more heated, the controversy surrounding Dalton Mayor Tiffany Henyard escalated as workers and business owners accused her of a persistent campaign of harassment that has cost them money and jobs. These business owners claimed that the village had revoked their licenses, but they are still operating under state jurisdiction. A pivotal moment in the developing story was when former Chicago Mayor Lori Lightfoot was assigned to look into the alleged illicit activities of Henyard. Henyard's response was swift and combative, and her administration appeared intent on undermining Lightfoot's efforts. Lightfoot's first course of action was to avoid taking accountability. She tried to shift the blame for the growing problems in Dalton and Thornton Township to the village trustees, which not only widened the rifts within the local government, but also further distanced Henyard from a public that was already suspicious of any wrongdoing. Henyard insisted that Lightfoot's investigation was politically motivated and intended to damage her reputation, but Lightfoot's deflection tactics started to backfire when it turned up a pattern of financial mismanagement and corruption that was directly related to Henyard's administration. A setting full of dubious as Lightfoot's investigation went on, it became evident that the mayor had misappropriated taxpayer funds for extravagant expenses that provided little tangible benefit to the residents. Expensive travel, costly personal perks, and dubious contracts became emblematic of an administration accused of putting its own interests ahead of the needs of its constituents. Financial practices also caused deficits and a number of financial irregularities that directly pointed to Henyard, but Henyard continued to reject the findings, characterizing the inquiry as a personal attack on her leadership. Henyard's resistance to the probe of the Lightfoot alone stoked popular indignation. The more Lightfoot's results were examined, the more concerning the details became, showed a pattern of financial waste and a lack of transparency in decision-making. Despite the mounting evidence, Henyard and her supporters maintain that she was the victim of a smear campaign by political rivals, claiming that the village's financial woes were primarily caused by systemic issues that Henyard inherited when she took office. However, more and more officials and residents demanded accountability, seeing Henyard's attempts to shift blame as desperate and unpersuasive as the investigation proceeded. The gap between Henyard's fans and detractors widened. Fans insisted that the mayor was unfairly singled out and that she had little control over the problems she faced, while detractors regarded her actions as a clear attempt to avoid taking accountability for the shortcomings of her administration. Each new finding from Lightfoot's investigation seemed to confirm the worst fears of Henyard's critics, further undermining public confidence in her leadership despite the growing pressure on her. This growing divide set the stage for more political conflict, with calls for Henyard's resignation growing louder along with protests and demands for immediate corrective action to restore the integrity of local governance. Refused to resign and instead reaffirmed her claims of innocence, which only strengthened the impression that she was unwilling to accept accountability for the actions of her administration. The longer she stayed in power, the more firmly in the middle of the pandemonium, the public began to believe that Henyard was unwilling to implement the reforms that were required to handle the escalating situation. Deeper problems inside the Henyard's administration, including claims of partiality and unethical behavior, were further exposed by Lightfoot's inquiry. These results highlighted the larger difficulties Dalton and Thornton Township face, highlighting the urgent need for structural changes and capable leadership. The effects of Lightfoot's inquiry were felt. As the Henyard administration faltered under the weight of growing public scrutiny and the findings of Lightfoot's investigation, it became evident that the story of Tiffany Henyard's time in office was no longer just a local issue, but rather a warning about the dangers of unchecked power. Beyond Henyard's office serving as a rallying cry for those seeking to reclaim their community from the grip of political dysfunction, Lightfoot's investigation highlighted the importance of transparency and accountability in governance. Power, the fallout from poor leadership, and the tenacity of a people resolved to demand better, regardless of whether Henyard's actions ultimately result in legal or political repercussions. The controversies that marred her tenure and the lessons her administration taught about the value of accountability had already defined her legacy. As Dalton and Thornton Township attempt to mend the deep wounds caused by Henyard's leadership, transparency, and the obligations of public office will continue to have an impact long after her political career is over. This will serve as a reminder of the perils of disregarding public trust and the vital necessity of ethical governance.
Dalton Mayor Tiffany Henyard at the helm of the village's first packed meeting since Dalton trustees passed a resolution last month requiring her to turn over the village's financial records and asking the FBI to investigate her alleged misuse of village funds. The mayor admits to a $2 million deficit, but trustees say
it was bold and ultimately embarrassing for Tiffany Hen to ask the FBI to look into her actions, revealing the shaky dynamics of her administration, and perhaps an attempt to claim her innocence or divert attention from local inquiries. Henyard suggested federal action, but the Board of Trustees quickly overrode her rejection of the proposal with a resounding majority vote, demonstrated the widening gap between Henyard and local government representatives, underscoring the board's lack of trust in her ability to lead their community. Critics saw Hen's request for the FBI's intervention as a desperate attempt to divert attention from growing accusations of wrongdoing, rather than for the sake of truth and responsibility. In addition to reinforcing the trustees' determination to uphold local oversight, the decision to override her veto highlighted Henyard's growing isolation within the halls of power. The situation's optics were especially damaging, as Henyard's proposal to invite federal involvement was interpreted by some perceived it as an attempt to move the emphasis away from local accountability and towards a higher authority, while also acknowledging the seriousness of the problem she faced. An administration already mired in turmoil was further engulfed in controversy when the swift and decisive decision to override her veto sent a powerful message of defiance, opposing what many saw as a futile and unwise maneuver. According to Scandal Henyard's perspective, The incident serves as more proof of her incapacity to lead or handle Dalton and Dorton's political environment. Township watchdogs said that this episode demonstrated her increasing propensity to put her own interests ahead of true leadership, especially as her administration was embroiled in scandals involving anything from extravagant expenditures to residents expressed their dissatisfaction with the spectacle that had taken the place of efficient governance in response to the misappropriation of public monies and neglect of urgent community needs. Henyard's attempt to enlist the FBI was a needless distraction from the urgent local problems that required immediate response, as local services were overwhelmed by financial mismanagement and public trust in the government was severely damaged. The Board of Trustees' decision to override Henyard's veto was not only a rejection of an ill-conceived proposal, but also a declaration of their commitment to upholding local control and accountability during a time of crisis. With institutions at an all-time low, residents felt that the priority should have been addressing these issues head-on rather than engaging in what they perceived as a formative gesture. Rising crisis, the vote represented a group attempt to stabilize a broken administration and restore a semblance of administration because the trustees were resolved to take the reins and stop additional disruption brought on by Henyard's unpredictable decision-making.
This related to the secret squirrel meetings, yes, that the Board of Trustees have.
The trustees vowed to override her veto. One of them, Kiana Belcher, sitting at the meeting with her portrait because she says it was removed from the wall of Village Hall.
And this is just a process to drag it along, but everybody sees what's going on.
The village, under Henyard's leadership, is cracking down on access, pushing media at tonight's meeting to the very back of the room, almost out of sight of public comment from residents. But their voices were loud and clear.
Everybody cares about the person that's making the mess.
Henyard placing the blame elsewhere.
But only judge when you got both sides of the story, not one side narrative, which is negative.
One resident said, "You lie to us as residents. You do not stand for me. And I want you to step down as mayor today and save our village from this deficit that you caused." Another said, "The mayor can blame everyone for what's happening, but she has to look at herself. Nobody told her to get on TV and act like that." Still, the village is cracking down on access under Tiffany Henyard's leadership, pushing the media to the very back of the room during meetings, practically out of sight from public comment. Everyone cares, with the exception of the one who is causing chaos and shifting the blame elsewhere. But you can only pass judgment after hearing all sides of an issue and not just one bad one. Although Henyard has continuously presented herself as innocent and dismissed criticism as discrimination against Black women, she has declined to answer inquiries about her notorious trip to Las Vegas, where she allegedly spent thousands of government dollars on airfare, hotel, and food.
Together at this time and this moment. This is what we got this year, right? Y'all all said my resolution candidates. So guess what? I am you.
Don't forget I am the leader. They want to hear from the mayor. If y'all ain't learned that yet.
Of course I'm gonna give away $1 million to help you pay your mortgage and your rent. Of course I am.
The mayor, not the trustees that don't do nothing, that only run their mouth. We getting scrutinized in the meeting. For what? Loving on the people, showing them that they matter to us. We going through the fires.
Tiffany Henyard appeared to disappear after it was discovered that she had embezzled millions of dollars from the general fund without accounting for other alleged embezzlements. She evaded attempts by news organizations to get in touch with her, and the general fund's daily operations were in the red with a $3.65 million deficit. The police department's spending was up 21% with, as of June 18, 589 checks totaling more than $6 million were authorized but never sent to vendors, with 2 officers earning more overtime compensation than their normal salary. Purchases using 6 different credit cards, including $440,000 in Amazon payments, were made, although receipts were rarely given. These charges are being investigated. Even though you may hear a lot of things, one official said, "I can guarantee you that the financial information is clear."
I knew we were broke. And the way she broke it down and just let the other residents hear what was really going on, because Tiffany Henyard always talk about fake news.
Furthermore, despite repeated requests for an interview, it was found that the village had overused credit cards. Mayor Tiffany Henyard was also reported missing from the building, and village staff was unable to provide an exact time for her return the next day at a packed community center. Hen's actions were far from those of a leader serving the people, according to the facts presented at the meeting of the trust. They pointed out that she had used public funds to support her extravagant lifestyle, exposing a concerning pattern of financial mismanagement and a lack of concern for the welfare of her community.
The village's credit card spending is out of control. Mayor Tiffany Henyard didn't respond to any of my requests today, and I'm told she's not in the building. No response to repeated interview requests. I tried to track down Dolton Mayor Tiffany Henyard in person today. Village employees told me she wasn't in the office and didn't say when she would be, a day after this. A packed community meeting Thursday night, outburst.
I made multiple attempts to get an interview with Dolton Mayor Tiffany Henyard, but she never responded when I tried to meet with her face-to-face. At a crowded community meeting on Thursday night, tensions erupted as locals expressed their grievances, and village staff told me she was not in the office and could not indicate when she would return. Henyard's leadership came under increasing scrutiny as a number of community members demanded accountability for the financial mismanagement that plagued at a recent board meeting. Henyard's criminal defense attorneys Val Brindley and Ed McDavid were present, sitting alongside the village's attorneys as Henyard's defense team closely watched the proceedings. In the midst of the simmering controversy, Henyard appeared to have found new allies in the legal industry after her former top assistant Keith Freeman was fired. Federal criminal defense attorney Brindley is renowned for his aggressive legal tactics, and it was evident that Henyard was getting ready for a protracted legal battle, and her defense lawyers paid close attention to her efforts to defend herself during the ongoing FBI corruption investigation. As anticipated, Henyard insisted on her innocence, saying she was unfairly singled out, and accused the trustees of squandering public funds on the investigation, portraying herself as the only person genuinely serving the community. However, the situation became more complicated as a result of the actions. In particular, Henyard had given L.S. Lacey, a member of her administration who was later fired by the Dolton Village Council for disobedience, a new, influential position. Many people believe Lacey's appointment was illegal, and the board members questioned Hen's choice to promote someone with such a contentious past. Lacey's appointment only heightened the unrest in the community. Lacey, who had previously been involved in legal issues, was charged with federal bankruptcy fraud and accused of lying under oath in a plot to hide assets and income from creditors, but Lacey's defense team strongly refuted the accusations, claiming his innocence. While Henyard had previously had almost unanimous support from the Thornton Township Board, her silence regarding Lacey's appointment and the growing scandals surrounding her caused rifts within her support base, and whistleblowers from the Thornton Board of Directors said that the media attention surrounding Lacey's case was part of the larger narrative that continued to cast a shadow over Henyard's administration. Trustees came forward to expose how Henyard had exploited residents, merchants, and staff in order to gain more power. As the situation worsened, the whistleblowers claimed that Henyard had given a false impression of success, made possible by the diligent taxpayers of Thornton Township in Dolton. Henyard denied any wrongdoing, dismissing her opponents as merely looking for attention, while tensions in Dolton persisted. Henyard's most recent appointment caused more concern since she named Michael A. Smith as, from a prominent South suburban politician to a top assistant lobby earning $100,000 a year. Smith, 34, was reportedly well-versed in the law and had years of political experience, but his background raised serious questions. Over the years, Smith had been accused of at least 8 different offenses, ranging from official misconduct to domestic violence. In 2012, Smith was involved in a Dixon case in which a young trustee resigned after entering a guilty plea to stealing patrol duties and impersonating. Despite these concerning concerns, a police officer continued to raise doubts about his integrity. The fact that Henyard's decision to appoint Smith was made without outside approval raised questions about her decision-making, as many perceived it as another example of Henyard surrounding herself with controversial figures, further alienating trustees and residents alike. As the Howard's administration continued to face growing criticism, the situation in Dalton grew more tense. The shady financial management. In a town already struggling financially, Henyard's controversial decisions and actions seemed to worsen the situation rather than improve it. Appointments and legal issues only made the already precarious state of leadership even more, and the ongoing FBI investigation into her behavior only increased the pressure, leaving many in the community wondering if her time as mayor was coming to an end while she refused to step down. As opposed to offering solutions, Tiffany Henyard's tenure as the leader of Dalton and Thornton Township was far from done. But as the inquiry went on and the community's demands for responsibility increased, her position seemed increasingly vulnerable. Until we meet again, thanks for watching Visual Vortex.